Marcus Wellington adjusted his silk tie for the third time as his limousine pulled up to Romano's Italian Bistro. The modest restaurant looked nothing like the five-star establishments he frequented, but his 12-year-old daughter Isabella had specifically requested they try somewhere normal for once. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Dad, are we here? Isabella asked, her delicate fingers tracing the embroidered pattern on her dress. She had been blind since birth, but her other senses had developed with remarkable acuity. Yes, sweetheart, it's a small Italian place. Nothing fancy, just like you wanted. Marcus had built Wellington Industries from the ground up, transforming a small tech startup into a billion-dollar empire. Money could buy almost anything. The best doctors, the finest schools, exotic vacations, but it couldn't give his daughter sight. After losing his wife in a car accident 3 years ago, Isabella was his entire world. The restaurant's interior was warm and inviting, with checkered tablecloths and the aroma of garlic and basil filling the air. Other diners chatted quietly, the soft clink of silverware creating a gentle symphony. Marcus guided Isabella to a corner booth, noting how she paused to listen to the sounds around her. "It smells wonderful in here," Isabella whispered, a smile brightening her face. A young waitress approached their table with confident steps. She appeared to be in her early 20s, with auburn hair pulled back in a simple ponytail and kind green eyes that immediately focused on Isabella rather than Marcus's expensive suit. "Good evening, I'm Sarah Chen, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Would you like to hear about our specials?" Most waitstaff became intimidated when they recognized Marcus from business magazines or news articles. Sarah seemed completely unaware of his identity, treating them like any other customers. "We'd love to hear the menu," Marcus replied, expecting the usual rushed recitation. Sarah pulled up a chair next to Isabella instead of standing. "Would it be okay if I described everything in detail? I want to make sure you can really picture each dish." Isabella's face lit up with surprise and delight. "Yes, please." What happened next left Marcus speechless. Sarah began painting vivid pictures with her words, transforming simple menu items into sensory experiences. "Our lasagna starts with pasta sheets so thin you could read through them, layered with ricotta that's as smooth as velvet. The meat sauce simmers for 6 hours, until it becomes this rich, deep red that reminds me of autumn leaves. When it bakes, the mozzarella on top gets these beautiful golden bubbles that crackle when you cut into it." Isabella leaned forward, captivated. "What does it sound like when you cut it?" "Like walking through fresh snow, that soft, satisfying crunch. And the steam that rises carries the smell of oregano and fresh basil that makes your mouth water before you even take a bite." Marcus watched his daughter's expression transform. For the first time in months, she seemed genuinely excited about food. Isabella had been struggling with her appetite lately, often pushing away meals after a few bites. "Tell me about the chicken parmesan," Isabella requested eagerly. Imagine a chicken breast that's been pounded until it's tender as butter, then coated in breadcrumbs that sound like rain on a roof when they hit the hot oil. The coating turns this gorgeous golden brown, the color of a sunset. Underneath, the chicken stays so juicy that when you press your fork down, it releases this gentle hiss of steam. Sarah continued describing the marinara sauce, how the tomatoes were roasted until their edges caramelized, creating sweet and tangy notes that danced on the tongue. She explained how the fresh mozzarella melted into creamy pools that stretched like silk ribbons when lifted with a fork. Marcus found himself leaning in too, genuinely hungry for the first time in weeks. The stress of running his company had been affecting his own appetite, but Sarah's descriptions made even the simplest dishes sound extraordinary. "Dad, can we order both?" "I want to try everything she described," Isabella said, her voice filled with an enthusiasm Marcus hadn't heard in ages. As Sarah headed to the kitchen with their order, Marcus noticed other tables beginning to request her specifically. Word was spreading that this particular waitress had a gift for making food come alive through description. At a nearby table, an elderly man with thick glasses squinted at the menu. "Excuse me, miss," he called to Sarah. "These letters are too small. Could you help?" Without hesitation, Sarah approached his table and began describing the evening's offerings, with the same care and detail she had shown Isabella. The man's face brightened, as she painted pictures of herb-crusted salmon and creamy mushroom risotto. "You're quite talented at this," Marcus commented when Sarah returned to check on their drinks. "My grandmother lost her sight when I was little," Sarah explained simply. "She taught me that food is about so much more than what you see. It's about the story behind each dish, the love that goes into preparing it, and the memories it creates." Isabella reached across the table and found her father's hand. "This is the best dinner we've had in a long time, Dad." Marcus squeezed her small fingers gently. She was right. Despite the modest surroundings, this felt special in a way that no amount of money could buy. When their food arrived, Sarah placed each plate with careful precision, describing the visual presentation before stepping back. "The lasagna has these beautiful layers you can see from the side, like geological strata. And Isabella, your chicken parmesan is positioned at 3 o'clock on your plate, with the pasta at 9 o'clock and vegetables at 12. Isabella navigated her meal with newfound confidence, savoring each bite. "It tastes exactly like you described it," she said with wonder. Marcus took a bite of his own dish and was surprised by the quality. Romano's might not have the prestige of his usual restaurants, but the food was exceptional. More importantly, Isabella was eating with genuine appetite for the first time in weeks. "Sarah," Marcus called as she passed their table, "how long have you worked here?" "About 2 years, sir. I'm studying culinary arts at the community college during the day and working nights to pay for school." Something in her answer stirred Marcus's business instincts. This young woman possessed a rare gift, the ability to create experiences, not just serve food. In his world of corporate acquisitions and market strategies, he recognized valuable talent when he saw it. As the evening progressed, Marcus watched Sarah work. She moved through the restaurant with grace and purpose, remembering every customer's preferences, checking on tables at just the right moments, and consistently going above and beyond what was expected. Isabella finished nearly her entire meal, chatting animatedly about the flavors and textures Sarah had so vividly described. It was the most Marcus had seen her eat in one sitting since her mother's death. When it came time for dessert, Sarah's descriptions reached new heights of artistry. She painted pictures of tiramisu layers like clouds of mascarpone floating on espresso-soaked ladyfingers, and chocolate cake that was dark as midnight with ganache that flows like liquid silk. Quote, "I've never experienced food like this before," Isabella confided to her father. "It's like Sarah helps me see with my other senses." Marcus nodded, understanding exactly what his daughter meant. This wasn't just excellent service. It was something extraordinary. Sarah possessed an intuitive understanding of how to connect with people, how to transform an ordinary meal into a memorable experience. As they prepared to leave, Marcus left a generous tip and made a mental note of the restaurant's name. Something told him this wouldn't be their last visit to Romano's Italian Bistro, and Sarah Chen was someone he needed to remember. 2 weeks later, Marcus found himself making reservations at Romano's for the 3rd time. Isabella had been asking to return every few days, her enthusiasm for dining out completely transformed. But tonight felt different. There was an urgency to his call. "Mr. Wellington," Dr. Patricia Hoffman had said during their appointment that afternoon, "Isabella's recent improvement in appetite and mood is remarkable. Whatever changes you've made at home, keep doing them." The truth was, the only change had been their visits to Romano's and Sarah's extraordinary descriptions that brought food to life for his daughter. Marcus arrived early, hoping to speak with Sarah privately before Isabella joined them. The restaurant was busier than their previous visits, with a line of customers waiting for tables. Several people specifically requested Sarah as their server, though she was already handling more tables than seemed reasonable for one person. "Good evening, Mr. Wellington," Sarah greeted him with a warm smile, despite looking exhausted. "Is Isabella coming tonight?" "She'll be here shortly. Sarah, I wanted to talk to you about something important." Before he could continue, the restaurant manager, Tony Romano, approached their table with visible frustration. "Sarah, Table 6 is complaining their order is taking too long and the kitchen says you haven't turned in Table 12's dessert order yet." "I submitted Table 12's order 15 minutes ago," Sarah replied calmly. "And I'll check on Table 6 right now." Tony shook his head and walked away, muttering something about college kids who think they know everything. Marcus watched this interaction with growing concern. It was clear that Sarah was being overworked and underappreciated, despite being the restaurant's most valuable asset. Rough night? Marcus asked. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. It's always like this on Fridays, Sarah said with a tired laugh. But I love what I do. Every table is a chance to make someone's evening special. Isabella arrived moments later, guided by Marcus's driver David, who had become protective of the girl since her mother's passing. Her face immediately brightened when she heard Sarah's voice. "Sarah, I've been practicing what you taught me about identifying herbs in my food. I made Mom's recipe for chicken soup, and I could actually taste the thyme and rosemary separately." "That's wonderful, Isabella. Your palate is becoming very sophisticated. Tonight I have something special to share with you. Our chef is trying a new risotto recipe, and I'd love to get your expert opinion." As Sarah began describing the risotto, how the arborio rice was toasted until it released a nutty aroma, then slowly cooked with wine and stock until each grain was creamy on the outside but still had a gentle bite, Marcus noticed other diners openly listening to her presentation. A young couple at the next table exchanged glances and quietly asked their server if Sarah could describe their options too. Within minutes, a pattern emerged that Marcus had observed before, customers gravitating towards Sarah's exceptional service. "The risotto is infused with saffron threads that turn it this gorgeous golden color, like captured sunshine," Sarah continued. "And we finish it with truffle oil that has this earthy, mysterious scent that makes you feel like you're walking through an ancient forest." Isabella clapped her hands together. "Yes, I want to try that, and can you tell me about tonight's fish special?" While Sarah painted a picture of pan-seared halibut with lemon butter sauce, Marcus's phone buzzed with an urgent message from his assistant. "Emergency board meeting called for Monday. Richardson Corp trying hostile takeover. Need your immediate attention." Marcus's stomach tightened. Richardson Corporation had been circling Wellington Industries for months, looking for any sign of weakness. As the company's founder and majority shareholder, Marcus knew his presence and decision-making were crucial during this critical time. But looking at Isabella's animated face as she discussed flavor profiles with Sarah, he couldn't bear the thought of disrupting this progress. His daughter had been struggling with depression and social isolation since losing her mother. These dinners were the first time he'd seen her genuinely engaged with the world around her. "Mr. Wellington?" Sarah's voice pulled him back to the present. "Is everything all right?" "Just work concerns," he said, quickly putting his phone away. "Nothing that can't wait." Their conversation was interrupted by raised voices from across the restaurant. A well-dressed couple in their 50s was berating a young server who had apparently mixed up their order. "This is completely unacceptable," the woman was saying loudly. "We specifically requested no mushrooms, and this dish is covered in them." The server, who looked barely 18, was close to tears. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. I'll have the kitchen remake it immediately." "You'll count the entire meal," the man demanded. "This is exactly why we don't usually eat at places like this." Other diners were beginning to stare, and Marcus could see Isabella becoming uncomfortable with the harsh voices. Without hesitation, Sarah excused herself from their table and approached the angry customers. "Good evening," she said in a calm, professional voice. "I'm Sarah, and I'd be happy to help resolve this situation. May I suggest our chef's special preparation of the grilled salmon? It's prepared without any mushrooms, and I think you'll find it exceptional." "Who are you?" the woman snapped. "We weren't talking to you." "I'm one of the servers here, and I want to make sure you have a wonderful dining experience. The salmon is prepared with a herb crust that includes fresh dill, parsley, and just a touch of lemon zest. When it's grilled, the skin becomes perfectly crispy, while the flesh stays incredibly moist and flaky." Something in Sarah's confident, descriptive approach began to defuse the tension. She continued painting a picture of the dish, with such detail and enthusiasm that the couple found themselves genuinely interested instead of angry. "The vegetables are roasted at high heat until their edges caramelize, creating these beautiful golden brown tips that add a subtle sweetness to complement the salmon's natural richness." Within 5 minutes, Sarah had not only resolved the conflict but had the couple excited about their replacement meal. Other customers who had witnessed the exchange began requesting Sarah's recommendations for their own orders. Marcus was impressed but not surprised. Sarah possessed a rare combination of grace under pressure and genuine passion for hospitality. In his business experience, those qualities were invaluable and extremely difficult to find. When Sarah returned to their table, Isabella immediately sensed something had happened. Was someone upset? she asked with concern. Just a small misunderstanding about an order, Sarah replied gently. Everything's fine now. Should we talk about dessert? Tonight we have a chocolate souffle that rises like a little mountain of happiness. As the evening progressed, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. He asked Sarah if she could join them for a few minutes when her shift ended. I have a proposition for you, he said when she sat down at their table an hour later. But first, let me ask you something. What are your long-term goals? Sarah looked surprised by the directness of his question. I want to become a chef someday, maybe open my own restaurant. But school is expensive, and I'm working as many hours as I can just to pay tuition. What if I told you there was a way to accelerate that timeline significantly? Isabella reached for her father's hand, sensing the importance of the conversation, even though she couldn't see the expressions on their faces. I'm listening, Sarah said carefully. Marcus leaned forward, his business instincts fully engaged. I'd like to offer you a position with my company. You'd work as Isabella's personal dining companion and food educator. The salary would be enough to cover your tuition and living expenses, plus benefits. Sarah's eyes widened. I'm not sure I understand. What kind of company do you work for? Wellington Industries. I'm the founder and CEO. The color drained from Sarah's face as she realized she'd been serving one of the wealthiest men in the city without knowing his identity. Oh my God, I had no idea. I'm so sorry if I was too casual or... Don't apologize, Marcus interrupted. Your genuine, unpretentious approach is exactly why I'm making this offer. Isabella has made more progress in the past 2 weeks than she has in months, all because of your gift for bringing experiences to life. Isabella squeezed her father's hand. Sarah, you make food magical. You help me see things I never could before. Sarah looked between father and daughter, clearly torn. This is incredibly generous, but I love working here. These people depend on me. Quote, Think about it, Marcus said, placing his business card on the table. You could still pursue your culinary dreams, but with financial security and the opportunity to make a real difference in someone's life. As they prepared to leave, Marcus noticed Tony Romano watching their conversation with obvious curiosity. Something about the manager's expression suggested he had overheard at least part of their discussion. That concern would prove prophetic in ways Marcus couldn't yet imagine. 6 months had passed since that pivotal evening at Romano's, and the world had shifted in ways none of them could have anticipated. Sarah stood in the gleaming kitchen of Wellington Manor, carefully plating the anniversary dinner she had prepared for Marcus and Isabella. Tomorrow marks 1 year since Marcus's wife Elena had passed away, and this meal carried the weight of memory, healing, and hope. The hostile takeover attempt by Richardson Corporation had failed spectacularly, partly due to Marcus's renewed focus and energy that had returned when he saw his daughter's happiness restored through Sarah's presence in their lives. But the real transformation had been far more personal than professional. Sarah had initially declined Marcus's job offer, choosing to stay loyal to Romano's. However, fate intervened when Tony Romano, consumed by jealousy over Sarah's popularity and the attention she received from wealthy customers, made a catastrophic decision. He fired Sarah 3 days after witnessing her conversation with Marcus, claiming she was putting on airs and forgetting her place. The termination backfired immediately. Regular customers began canceling reservations when they learned Sarah was gone. Online reviews plummeted. Within 2 weeks, Romano's was struggling to stay afloat, and Tony was forced to beg Sarah to return. By then, she had accepted Marcus's offer and was already transforming Isabella's relationship with food and, more importantly, with life itself. Sarah, something smells incredible down here, Isabella called from the dining room, her voice carrying a confidence that had grown steadily over the months. She navigated the manor's halls with ease now, her spatial awareness and independence flourishing under Sarah's patient guidance. Tonight's menu is very special, Sarah replied, carrying the first course to the dining room where Marcus and Isabella waited. The room was softly lit with candles, and Sarah had arranged white roses, Elena's favorite flowers, as centerpieces. Before we begin, Sarah said, placing her hands gently on Isabella's shoulders, I want you to close your eyes and just breathe in. Tell me what you smell. Isabella inhaled deeply, her face serene with concentration. I smell rosemary and garlic, but there's something else. Something sweet and floral. That's lavender, Sarah explained. Your mother's favorite herb. Your father told me she used to grow it in the garden and she always said it reminded her of summer afternoons when you were little. Marcus's throat tightened with emotion. Sarah had somehow managed to honor Elena's memory while creating new experiences for Isabella. It was a delicate balance that required incredible sensitivity and understanding. The first course was a butternut squash soup with lavender-infused cream. As Sarah described each spoonful, the way the squash had been roasted until its edges caramelized, how the lavender added subtle floral notes that danced with the soup's natural sweetness. Isabella savored every word and every taste. "This tastes like a warm hug," Isabella said softly, "like Mom used to give me." Over the months, Sarah had become far more than a dining companion. She had helped Isabella learn to cook simple dishes, teaching her to identify ingredients by touch and smell. They had spent hours in the kitchen together, Sarah guiding Isabella's hands as she learned to knead bread, whisk eggs, and fold ingredients with gentle precision. But perhaps more importantly, Sarah had helped Isabella connect with her mother's memory through food. They had recreated Elena's recipes, with Sarah describing each step in vivid detail and Isabella contributing her own sensory observations. These cooking sessions had become a form of healing, allowing Isabella to feel close to her mother while building new skills and confidence. The main course was pan-seared duck breast with cherry gastrique, a complex dish that showcased Sarah's growing culinary expertise. She had completed her culinary degree while working for the Wellington family, with Marcus insisting on funding her education as part of their arrangement. "The duck skin is crackling like a warm fireplace," Sarah described as she served the plates. "Underneath, the meat is this beautiful rose color, tender enough to cut with a fork. The cherry sauce has this perfect balance of sweet and tart, like the first cherries of summer that make your mouth water just thinking about them." Marcus watched his daughter eat with genuine pleasure, remembering the months when she had barely touched her food. The transformation was remarkable. Isabella had gained healthy weight. Her posture was more confident, and she engaged with the world around her with curiosity rather than withdrawal. "Sarah," Marcus said as they enjoyed the meal, "I have something to tell you both." Both women turned their attention to him, sensing the significance in his tone. The Wellington Foundation is opening a new culinary institute next year. It will provide scholarships for aspiring chefs from underprivileged backgrounds, with a special focus on those who want to work in therapeutic dining and hospitality. Sarah's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "That's wonderful, Marcus. The culinary world needs more programs like that." "I want you to be the director," he continued. "You've shown me that food is about so much more than sustenance. It's about connection, healing, and bringing people together. Your approach could revolutionize how we think about dining and hospitality." Isabella clapped her hands together excitedly. "Sarah, you have to say yes. You could teach other people to make food come alive the way you do for me." Sarah was quiet for a long moment, clearly overwhelmed. "I don't know what to say. This is beyond anything I ever dreamed of." "There's more," Marcus added with a smile. "The institute will be built on the grounds where Romano's used to be." Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. What happened to Romano's? Tony Romano's poor decisions finally caught up with him. The restaurant went out of business 3 months ago. I purchased the property, and we're going to transform it into something that honors what you started there. The idea that every meal should be an experience, that every person deserves to feel valued and understood. The irony wasn't lost on any of them. Tony's jealousy and short-sightedness had led to his downfall, while Sarah's kindness and genuine care for others had opened doors to opportunities beyond her wildest imagination. As they moved to dessert, a lavender creme brulee that Sarah had perfected after months of experimentation, the conversation turned to the future. Isabella would be starting at a new school in the fall, one specifically designed for students with visual impairments but focused on ability rather than disability. Sarah had helped her prepare by building her confidence and independence through cooking and sensory exploration. "I want to help at the institute too," Isabella announced. "I could work with other kids who can't see, teach them that blindness doesn't mean you can't experience the world fully." Marcus felt a surge of pride at his daughter's maturity and compassion. The shy, withdrawn girl who had barely spoken at restaurants a year ago was now confident enough to want to help others facing similar challenges. "That's a beautiful idea, sweetheart," he said. "Your perspective would be invaluable." Sarah reached across the table and found Isabella's hand. You've taught me as much as I've taught you. You've shown me that limitations only exist in our minds, and that with the right support and encouragement, anyone can thrive. As the evening wound down, they moved to the garden where Elena's lavender plants had been restored to their former glory. Sarah had worked with the groundskeeper to bring the garden back to life, creating a living memorial that bloomed with fragrance and beauty. "Mom would have loved you," Isabella said to Sarah as they sat on a bench surrounded by the aromatic herbs. "She always said that the best people are the ones who help others see beauty in ordinary things." Sarah wiped away a tear, thinking of her own grandmother, who had taught her to describe the world for those who couldn't see it. "I think she would have understood that we all have different ways of seeing. Sometimes the most beautiful things are the ones we feel rather than see." Marcus joined them in the garden, carrying a small wrapped package. "Sarah, this is for you, a token of our gratitude for everything you've given us." Inside the package was a delicate silver locket containing a photo of the three of them together in the manor's kitchen. Isabella's hands covered in flour as Sarah guided her through making pasta. It was a moment of pure joy and connection, captured forever. "But more importantly," Marcus continued, "I want you to know that you're not just an employee anymore. You're family. Whatever the future holds for the Institute, for Isabella's education, for any of our dreams, we want to face it together." Isabella nodded enthusiastically. "You're like the big sister I always wanted, and the best teacher I could have asked for." Sarah clasped the locket to her chest, overwhelmed by the love and acceptance she had found with this family. A year ago, she had been a struggling college student working in a small restaurant, dreaming of a career in cooking. Now she was about to become the director of a revolutionary culinary institute, part of a family that valued her not for what she could provide, but for who she was as a person. The sound of gentle laughter filled the garden as Isabella shared stories about her upcoming school adventures, her voice full of excitement rather than fear. Sarah listened with the same careful attention she had always given to describing food, understanding that this moment, like the perfect meal, was about more than the individual components. It was about love, growth, and the beautiful way that lives could intertwine to create something greater than the sum of their parts. In the distance, the lights of the city twinkled like stars, and the future stretched ahead full of possibility. The small act of describing a meal with care and passion had blossomed into something none of them could have imagined. A family bound not by blood, but by understanding. A business venture that would change lives. And a young girl who had learned that her blindness was not a limitation, but simply a different way of experiencing the extraordinary richness of the world around her. As they walked back toward the house together, Sarah couldn't help but smile at the beautiful unpredictability of life. Sometimes the most profound changes began with the simplest gestures, like taking the time to describe a lasagna to a little girl who couldn't see it, but who could feel its warmth and taste its love in every carefully crafted bite. As autumn deepened into winter, the Wellington Culinary Institute project gained momentum beyond anyone's expectations. Celebrity chefs from around the world began reaching out, intrigued by Sarah's revolutionary approach to sensory dining. James Morrison, host of the nation's most popular cooking show, requested a private consultation after hearing about Isabella's transformation. "I've been in this business for 30 years, Morrison told Sarah during his visit to the manor. "I've seen every gimmick, every trend, every supposed innovation. What you're doing isn't just different, it's essential. People have forgotten that food is meant to nourish the soul, not just the body." Isabella had prepared a simple salad for Morrison's visit, working entirely by touch and smell to select the perfect ingredients. As she arranged microgreens and edible flowers on the plate, describing each component's texture and aroma, Morrison watched in stunned silence. "The radish slices are thin enough that they curl slightly at the edges," Isabella explained, her fingers delicately positioning each element. "They have this crisp snap when you bite them, and a peppery heat that builds slowly on your tongue. The arugula leaves feel like silk but taste bold and earthy, almost like they're announcing themselves to your palate." Morrison tasted the salad with the reverence of someone experiencing food for the first time. "Extraordinary," he whispered. "Isabella, you've just taught me more about ingredients in 5 minutes than I learned in culinary school." The collaboration with Morrison led to a documentary series about the Institute's development. Camera crews followed Sarah as she designed a curriculum that would revolutionize culinary education. Traditional techniques were enhanced with sensory awareness training, empathy exercises, and communication skills that would enable future chefs to serve not just food, but understanding. Meanwhile, Marcus discovered that Richardson Corporation's attempted takeover had actually strengthened Wellington Industries' position. The crisis had forced him to streamline operations and reconnect with his company's core values. Employee satisfaction soared when Marcus implemented Sarah's suggestion to install therapeutic gardens at all company locations, creating spaces where stressed workers could find peace among herbs and vegetables. Food and business aren't so different, Sarah had explained to Marcus one evening as they watched Isabella tend to her own small herb garden. Both require patience, attention to detail, and understanding what people really need versus what they think they want. The insight proved prophetic when Wellington Industries pivoted toward sustainable technology solutions. Marcus's renewed perspective, influenced by months of watching Sarah nurture growth in both plants and people, led to innovations in vertical farming and community nutrition programs. The company's stock price reached record highs, while its environmental impact decreased dramatically. But the most significant transformation continued to unfold within Isabella herself. Dr. Hoffman, her therapist, documented changes that went far beyond improved appetite. Isabella's spatial reasoning had sharpened remarkably through her cooking experiences. Her social confidence bloomed as she began teaching cooking classes for other children with visual impairments at the local community center. Miss Isabella, 8-year-old Tommy Chen, asked during one of these classes, "How do you know when the onions are ready if you can't see them turn brown?" Isabella smiled, remembering asking Sarah similar questions months earlier. "Listen carefully, Tommy. Do you hear how the sizzling sound changes? At first, it's fast and aggressive, like rain on a hot pavement. But as the onions cook, the sound becomes gentler, more musical, and the smell transforms from sharp and biting to sweet and caramel-like. Your nose and ears will tell you everything you need to know." Sarah watched these teaching moments with profound satisfaction. Isabella had internalized not just cooking techniques, but the philosophy of using all senses to understand the world. The student had become a teacher, passing along wisdom to the next generation. The first official class at the Wellington Culinary Institute was scheduled for the following month. 24 students had been selected from hundreds of applicants, representing diverse backgrounds and abilities. Some were recent high school graduates seeking traditional culinary careers. Others were career changers drawn to therapeutic applications of food. 3 students, like Isabella, were visually impaired and would pioneer accessible cooking techniques. Sarah spent her evenings developing lesson plans that challenged conventional culinary education. Instead of starting with knife skills or basic techniques, her curriculum began with meditation and sensory awareness. Students would learn to taste the difference between vegetables grown in various soils, to identify herbs by touch alone, and to understand how emotions affected both cooking and eating. "The most important ingredient in any dish isn't salt or spice," Sarah explained to Marcus as they reviewed the curriculum. "It's the intention. When you cook with love, with attention, with respect for the ingredients and the people you're feeding, that intention becomes part of the flavor." This philosophy attracted attention from medical professionals interested in culinary therapy. Dr. Rodriguez from the city's leading hospital approached Sarah about developing programs for patients recovering from trauma, eating disorders, and depression. The idea that food could be medicine for the mind, as well as the body, aligned perfectly with the Institute's mission. As winter deepened, the converted Romano's building bustled with construction activity. The new design preserved elements of the original restaurant while expanding capabilities. The main dining room, where Sarah had first described food to Isabella, would become a demonstration kitchen where students could practice serving diverse populations. Tony Romano's old office was transformed into a meditation space filled with growing herbs. One snowy evening, as Sarah walked through the construction site with Marcus and Isabella, she reflected on the journey that had brought them all together. The concrete foundations were being poured, but the real foundation, the relationships, trust, and shared vision they had built, felt infinitely more solid. "Do you think Mom would approve of all this?" Isabella asked, her mittened hand finding Sarah's as they navigated around construction equipment. Sarah considered the question carefully. Elena's presence seemed woven throughout their story. In the lavender that scented their meals, in Marcus's devotion to Isabella's happiness, in the photographs that filled their home with memories of love and laughter. "I think your mother would be amazed by the woman you're becoming," Sarah replied. "She raised you to be kind, curious, and strong. Everything we're building here grows from those seeds she planted." Isabella nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes I dream about her. In the dreams, she's cooking alongside us, and I can smell her perfume mixed with cinnamon and vanilla. When I wake up, I'm not sad anymore. I feel like she's still here, just in a different way." The three of them stood quietly in the half-finished kitchen that would soon welcome students from around the world. Outside, snow continued to fall, each flake unique but part of a larger pattern that would transform the landscape by morning. Marcus broke the comfortable silence. "Sarah, there's something else I want to discuss with you. The Institute is just the beginning. I've been contacted by publishers who want you to write a cookbook. Not just recipes, but your philosophy of sensory cooking and emotional connection through food." Quote. Sarah's breath formed small clouds in the cold air as she laughed with surprise. "A cookbook? I never imagined." "Think about it," Isabella added excitedly. "You could reach people all over the world, teach them what you taught me. Imagine how many families could be helped by learning to really experience their food together." The book would indeed become reality, titled Beyond Sight, A Guide to Sensory Cooking and Mindful Eating. It would feature Isabella's story prominently, along with techniques Sarah had developed for cooking without sight, recipes designed to evoke specific emotions and memories, and guidance for using food as a tool for healing and connection. But those successes lay in the future. On this cold winter evening, they were simply three people who had found each other through the simple act of sharing a meal with genuine care and attention. The Institute would open on schedule, the book would become a bestseller, and Isabella would eventually attend college with a full scholarship, majoring in therapeutic recreation with a focus on adaptive cooking programs. Yet none of those achievements would feel as meaningful as this moment, standing together in a half-built kitchen, surrounded by the tools and spaces that would soon nurture new relationships, new understanding, and new possibilities for connection across all the beautiful differences that make each person unique. The Wellington Culinary Institute would open its doors the following spring, welcoming students from all backgrounds and abilities. Sarah's innovative approach to sensory dining and therapeutic hospitality would influence restaurants and culinary schools across the country. Isabella would indeed become a peer mentor, helping other young people with visual impairments discover their own unique strengths and possibilities. But on this evening, as they prepared for bed in their beautiful home, filled with the lingering aromas of their memorial feast, they were simply a family grateful for the unexpected gift of finding each other. And in the kitchen, Sarah's recipe notebook lay open to a new page, ready for tomorrow's adventures in taste, texture, and the infinite ways that food could bring people together and help them see the world, and each other, more clearly than they ever thought possible. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.